What you're listening to right now is not actually this microphone, it's this microphone.
Say hello to DJI Mic Mini.
I've been using these since they came out for a few different reasons, and I wanted to talk about my thoughts, kind of a review of sorts of the DJI Mic Mini as it compares to the regular DJI mic. I don't have the Mic 2, so I can't compare it to that, but I do have the original DJI mic set, and now I've got the DJI Mic Mini, as well as this pod mic from Rode, so I might switch between the two audio sources so you can kind of hear the difference between how they sound. And I also have another DJI Mic Mini, right? They come in sets of two, so we can also look at this one and we can kind of just compare, if you're holding it, this is what it sounds like. You can kind of hear the off-axis sound quality of the DJI Mic Mini if I turn it around, face it the other direction. So it does have some directionality to it. It's not going to pick up in every direction. If you were to have the microphone down here, this is what it would sound like in this kind of configuration. What's great about these is that they are incredibly small. Now, I thought the DJI mics were small. Of course, I can show you what those look like. This style mic pack has become quite popular in recent years. Of course, this is all 2.4 gigahertz. It's not UHF, and I actually prefer that. I found in the past that UHF, I get a lot of interference. Even I'm switching frequencies, and it's just such a pain. For whatever reason, the 2.4 gigahertz seems to work really, really well, as long as you don't have too much Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or other devices in the area, which has really never been a problem for me. Other people have said that it is an issue for them. So if you're, wondering if the signal is better, I can't tell you exactly because I've never really had problems with these in the past. But I've been very happy with the DJI Mic Mini as well as the DJI mic. I think they just work really well. Now, if you look at these side by side, you can kind of see that this is obviously smaller and almost to the point where this feels big to me now. Ever since I started using the DJI Mic Minis, I'm like, yeah, it's noticeable. It's got the green light. It kind of stands out, but it's small, almost, not quite the size of a button, but very small, lightweight. Now this pack, the DJI mic, the original, feels kind of big and clunky in comparison if you're clipping these on, because let's face it, with the DJI Mic Mini, you are clipping it on. There is no 3.5 millimeter input on here, so this is the microphone. You can't add one. Whereas on the DJI mic, the original, as well as the Mic 2, you have the 3.5 millimeter, so you can run a lav mic, you can hide it a little bit better. The Mic Mini, this is what you get. This is the microphone, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. In my case, I would only use the Mic Mini if it's a project where I'm okay seeing the microphone. And what do I mean by that? Social media. Plenty of social media content creators, influencers, they're holding the mic these days, they're talking like this. If this is just clipped to a shirt or something and it's visible in the frame but not obnoxious because it's very, very small, I'm kind of okay with that. I wouldn't use these on a short film or any kind of narrative work. Even a documentary might be, kind of borderline where maybe some scenes you're okay seeing it because it had to be that way. But other times you might want to hide a microphone. That's where I'd go with something like the DJI mic original, because then I can actually run a lavalier mic, hide it a little bit better. The other thing about the DJI Mic Mini is that this clip on the back is not a standard size for a cold shoe or a hot shoe. So I've actually run into a couple tricky parts, trying to clip these to a camera or something. They don't nest into a cold shoe like the original mic set, which was just something I got very used to, just slotting this in a cold shoe, either as storage or maybe just as like an on-camera reference scratch audio. The Mic Mini, you can't quite run the same way. And the other thing that's interesting about the clip is that the hinge mechanism is more centered, so it doesn't have as much bite. Whereas on the original mic, that hinge is all the way over, so the whole thing can kind of like bite and clip to whatever it is you're trying to clip it to, as well as obviously it's got the magnetic functionality too. But I just use that clip so often, and there's a level of security that the original mic has that the Mic Mini just feels like it is not biting as much. And that'll only make sense once you actually start using these things. I do really recommend them though. I think the Mic Mini is a great option if you don't care if the mic is visible, because it does sound pretty good. I mean, you've been listening to it off and on this whole time as I've been switching and editing between the different audio inputs. And what's nice is if you are a content creator or someone who just needs to get something done as quickly as possible, the Mic Mini has the noise reduction built in. And it can be good, it can be bad, but both microphones, activate noise reduction in sync. So let's say you have one microphone on your talent, on your subject, and you've got the other microphone near you. You can just click the power button on the side and all of a sudden noise reduction activates. Right now I have it on the kind of mild mode, the standard noise reduction. There is one level higher that's more aggressive, but I found that just the standard mode works pretty well as far as noise reduction. So I'll click it back on and you can hear this is without. So here's room tone. And then when I click it on, it just takes that edge off of the noise in the environment. And you will hear, it can, depending on the noise, depending on the environment, it can slightly distort the speaker's voice, but really not to a point that I would really, find all that irritating. Sometimes noise reduction can go too far, and so I tend to be very mild with my use of it. But if you're in a situation and you need noise reduction right in camera so you don't have to do any post-processing, this is a nice feature just to have. It's something I don't have on the DJI mic. So if I'm in a noisier environment or there's just kind of like an obnoxious room tone and I don't want to have to do all the post-production, not like it's that hard, but just, simplicity is really what these are all about. That is valuable at a certain degree. And these are actually a cheaper microphone option. So although you're sacrificing a few things by not being able to have a lav mic or whatever, you're also gaining just the size. Again, the form factor is so small. This feels big and bulky to me now. Whenever I have to clip it on, if I am needing to run the DJI Mic Original, if I have to clip this on, it just feels kind of like obnoxious, big, heavy, even though by historical standards, this is still very small, very compact, but now the Mic Mini is even smaller. Of course, great battery life. I've never run into an issue with that. The case for the Mic Mini looks a little different than the original mic. It has more of a clip open, but same functionality. The case charges the microphones. It works exactly how you would want. Now, one thing that did surprise me, and I'll actually click noise reduction off in case it's obnoxious. I don't know. You tell me if you're listening. Do you prefer noise reduction on or off? I'm not going to do any post-processing to this audio other than just maybe standardizing the levels a little bit. So let me know. Is the noise reduction good, bad? Do you not care? It doesn't matter. Sometimes I think it's nice to hear the space. If it's a little too quiet, a little too, it can give you like a weird eerie feeling if you can't hear the environment. So oftentimes I don't use noise reduction for that purpose, just so you can kind of feel what the space sounds like. And then if you're cutting to a new location, that also has a room tone element as well. But you let me know what you think. Obviously, if you don't have the room tone, you can always add it back in with some artificial sound effects or whatever it is. But for the most part, I like that realistic sound when it's not irritating. Now, the interesting thing, and I can't really show you this right now because the receiver is plugged into the board, so that's how I'm using this mic, but on the receiver, one of the surprising things, and it's not a problem because I fixed it, but basically what ended up happening was when I open up the mic, the Mic Mini kit, plugged into the camera, everything is mono mixed, meaning the left and right are just all merged as one channel, and I plugged it into my camera and I'm like, oh, that's weird. I guess that's a limitation of the Mic Mini, that it's mono only and you don't have the stereo functionality. However, that's not true. What you need to do is on the receiver, you need to physically plug it into your phone. I couldn't find a wireless signal using the DJI Mimo app. I believe that's what it's called. That's kind of their app interface for things like the Pocket 3. So I'm very familiar with it using with the Osmo Pocket 3, but I figured with the Mic Mini being wireless microphones, I would just wirelessly connect to my phone and I'd be able to change my settings. And I could never connect. I couldn't figure it out. Do I need to put it in pairing mode? What do I need to do? I needed to, maybe there is a workaround, but I couldn't figure it out how to do it wirelessly. I needed to physically plug in the receiver, the Mic Mini receiver, into my phone, which shouldn't be a problem. You probably have a smartphone. I'm sure everyone does. But using the, physical plug, USB-C, plugged it into my phone, and then the receiver settings showed up in the app, on the DJI Mimo app, and I was able to separate and pick stereo. And that's where you can also pick more advanced features like the level of noise reduction. Are you doing the standard or are you doing the more aggressive noise reduction? And I believe there's a few other features in the app that you can really kind of fine tune and tweak. One thing I do like about this receiver for the Mic Mini compared to the Mic Original is that it has the physical control dial on the side for volume. So if I'm out there, run and gun, just trying to capture something, something's a little too loud or a little too quiet, it's a click of a dial, switch of a wheel. Like I said, I can't really show you right now because it's plugged in. Well, I guess I could unplug it. Okay, so now we're using this audio, and I can just show you what this thing looks like. Very small, very compact, exactly like the Mic Mini you would want. You know, this is smaller. The receiver for the Mic Original looks something like this. So you can see a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact. It makes sense, it's the Mic Mini. But the advantage being, whereas on the DJI Mic Original, this is all touchscreen interface. There's really no physical buttons aside from the power button. So if you want to change any settings, it's all through this little touchscreen that does work quite well, but that can be a little clunky, you know, swiping and scrolling through a menu just to change something as simple as like your gain, your audio volume. On the Mic Mini, it's this nice little click wheel. So you can easily adjust up or down based on, and it has a nice satisfying click, I think, if you hear that. So depending on your volume, now I'm going to plug it back in. Depending on the volume you need, you can go up or down on that little click wheel, and it's very easy, very intuitive, just accessibility. So simplicity is kind of the main thing when it comes to the Mic Mini. It does have some sacrifices, it does have some compromises. The primary one being you just can't plug a lav mic into it. But aside from that, everything about these I really, really like. I like that the noise reduction is not, you know, forced on. You can activate it. I think there is probably some processing happening at like a... I can't tell what that is. There's a sound quality to like rubbing the microphone that sounds like maybe there's a little processing happening, but you know, for the most part, it's acceptable audio quality, whether you're running to your smartphone, to your camera, whatever it is. You would know the best use for this device for whatever your purposes are. I am not an audio expert by any means. I do like good audio compared to bad audio. I can tell if something's overprocessed, if it's too noisy. But there's certainly people who are more experienced with audio than me who would maybe pick it apart and nitpick and say, ooh, well, this, you know, the highs, the lows, the mids, you know, the noise curve, I don't know, the noise floor, whatever. There's a lot of things you could pick apart with these, but as just a basic entry-level microphone, it's certainly better than anything you're going to get from a device itself, because it's, you know, it's separate. You're not holding it, so it's your phone, your camera. You're going to get some of that handling noise just holding the thing. As well as, you know, anytime there's a subject that's a good distance away, you need the microphone close. So having something super tiny that's wireless that transmits what I consider to be pretty good, clean signal, that's what you want to use. Far too often, still to this day, it's becoming less of a trend, but still to this day, I see the people with, you know, the shotgun microphone just on top of their camera, and yet they're 20 feet away from their subject. You're never going to have good sound that way. You can't. Your microphone needs to be close to your subject. In fact, the closer the better, as long as you're not, you know, getting any kind of additional noise. But, you know, if I'm talking right in here, this is going to sound probably, oh, I heard a little peaking there, it like popped a little bit. I wonder if I turn, sometimes it's hard to tell with these headphones if it's the board or if it's the mic, but let me turn it down even one click further. So this is even reduced volume. And if I'm talking right in here, you're going to hear, you know, proximity matters. It changes how things sound. So the further something gets away, it's going to be a little bit roomier, a little bit bigger, a little bit more open sounding, where if you get something up real close, it's going to sound very, very intimate. And that can be a good sound for radio, for podcasts, whatever it might be. Now, if you want to hold the microphone, you can certainly do that like this. But me, I'm the type of person that likes to clip it onto the shirt. So as far as mic placement goes, you usually want it kind of center of the chest. I would be hesitant to clip the microphone up here on my collar. I feel like you'd get a lot of deeper, throatier sound than something, you know, just chest level where you're hearing it a little bit more open, a little bit, and how it naturally sounds in a more pleasing way. But regardless of how you clip it up, there's only a few goofy things. Like I said, the cold shoe, the plugging in the lav, the quirky settings on the receiver, needing to physically plug it into your phone. Once you do all those things, you kind of realize the limitations. I think this is a great mic set if you're a beginner, even someone who's a professional and you just need something that quick, in a pinch, you can plug in, set up, instantly connects. There's no troubleshooting, there's no figuring it out, no problem solving. It usually just works, and it sounds really, really good for what it is. Like I said, there's probably higher end microphones, higher end systems that sound better, but also there's times where it just needs to sound good enough, and as long as it's not irritating, it's not a problem, no one's going to mind. Now, will they mind that the microphone is in the shot? That's really going to depend on the project. If you need the flexibility, and that's why I still carry the original mic set with me, the DJI Mic Original, sometimes I need to plug in a lav mic. In fact, oftentimes I need to plug in a lav mic, but I also like the Mic Mini for those times where I don't. I would much rather grab this. If I'm okay seeing the microphone, I'd rather grab this than this, just purely from a size form factor. If I'm going to see either one, I'd rather see the smaller one. And you can probably take it a step further and you could paint out the green lights if that's obnoxious, if that's catching your eye. You can hide these under layers, so it is possible. But oftentimes, if you don't care one way or the other whether you're seeing it or not, just go for the smaller solution. It's cheaper, in fact, and you lose some of the functionality of the original mic and now the Mic 2, which is, I don't know if that's better or worse. Like I said, I don't have it. There's probably other people out there who have reviewed it. I'm sure. In fact, there's definitely people out there who have reviewed it. But the Mic Mini is a great choice if you're looking for that kind of all-purpose, simple, plug-and-play, has some extra features over the original mic. As long as you don't mind seeing it, it's a good choice.